Hi everyone, thanks for tuning into my channel, Huub Hildenbrand Guitar Academia. Today we have another lesson on tonal harmony, and in this lesson we will talk about the chain of dominants. So a chain of dominant seventh chords moving in perfect fourths ascending or perfect fifths descending, what's actually basically just the same. And these are very frequently used in classical music, in Western harmony. They're very prominent, and so we will talk about that. And there's down the description below there you find a PDF also where it's all written down what we are talking about today, and would be great to download that, to have that in front of you, to follow the lesson, and also it helps supporting the channel, so it supports my work here, and this would be really cool. Thank you. Okay, so the chain of dominants. Actually, normally in this minor, in this minor or major key, we just have one dominant. We have a dominant on the fifth degree, on the fifth scale degree. That's it. So where are these other dominant seventh chords coming from? Because when we talk about a chain of dominants, we just mean actually that a dominant seventh chord, and we just avoid the fifths now, just to make it very simple here. So like for example, we have a C7, C dominant seventh chord. And the root is going now up to the next fourth higher to F dominant 7. Then this root is going down to the one perfect fifths to B flat dominant 7. And that's the way it's always progressing. You can go there, you can go forever, because after 12 perfect fifths or 12 perfect fourths, you just arrive where you started. So you can do that all over. And actually this progression of ascending fourths or descending perfect fifths is very it's very typical and very characteristic anyway, because I think it's the most prominent chord progression in Western harmony anyway, in classical music, to, for example, when you are in E major, to just to just go through the whole progression. So in the cycle of 4 or 5. Actually, we here on Guitar Academia, we say it's cycle 4, because we always think upwards. So we have all these 6 different cycles, and that's cycle 4. So E major, oh sorry, that was wrong. My ear is not yet settled in E major. So again, E major, A major, subdominant, then we have this kind of so that's a progression. I'm sure you're kind of sounds very familiar. You know this progression, and so normally you would just go through the different diatonic chords by progressing like diatonic fourths up or diatonic fifths down. But in the chain of dominant chords, you only use one basic chord structure, and that's the major triad with an added minor 7, so the dominant 7th structure. and you only go by perfect fourths up or by perfect fifths down, because that's a regular resolution of a dominant seventh chord. Yeah, and we just follow actually the regular resolution of the dominant seventh chord. For example, F sharp dominant seventh, regularly in like when we are in B minor, and we will talk now of B minor, so I will just introduce that. So we are in B minor, and we have this F sharp dominant seventh chord. So normally we would just go directly to the tonic, which is a minor chord. So that's a regular resolution. But instead now of going from F sharp dominant seventh to the B minor chord, we go to the next dominant seventh chord on that root. So not B minor, but B dominant seventh, which leads us now further, because this is actually the secondary dominant now of the subdominant. So it's like the dominant for E minor, which is the subdominant. And then so we could now resolve that and then go back to B minor. But we can also think, okay, we go from F sharp dominant seventh to the secondary dominant of the subdominant. And then again, instead of going to E minor, we go to E dominant seventh. Yeah, and that would be actually the secondary dominant of the dominant parallel chord, so the relative of the dominant, which is just a diatonic chord in B minor, in Aeolian actually. And that E dominant seventh, instead of going to A major, we go to A dominant seventh, which is at the same time a secondary dominant for the tonic, for the relative major of the tonic. Like it would be like D major, but we play D dominant seventh. Yeah, and when we go further, we come to G dominant seventh. And we did the whole cycle here. Now we actually come to a chord which is not a secondary dominant in B minor. I mean, not directly, we should say. G dominant seventh would resolve to some kind of a C, but C we do not have in a B minor key if we are in the diatonic sphere, so to speak. So one way actually to explain this chord is that's a tritone substitution. Yeah, we can say, okay, that's a tritone substitution of C sharp dominant seventh, which doesn't resolve to C, any chord on C, but to down a minor second to F sharp dominant seven, and then we can resolve again to B minor. The interesting thing, when we look at a minor key, and the same is true when we look at a major key or major tonality, we have always like one dominant seventh chord with dominant function, like a primary dominant function chord on the fifth degree of the scale. And we have 5 more secondary dominants. So like dominant seventh chords, which are built on the fifth degree of a diatonic chord, which also must have a perfect fifth to be like a stable like resolution of a dominant seventh chord. So every if you look at a minor key and you look at every minor and major triads which are happening in this key, you can just have a secondary dominant for that chord. But actually we talked about that a lot. Just check out the tonal harmony, like more linear approach lessons, which we really were like many lessons about E minor and many lessons about E major. So you find everything there. Just for this lesson, it's really important to know we have actually like one primary dominant. We have 5 secondary dominants, which really work directly in the diatonic or in the tonal field, in the key, or in the tonality. And then, out of these 6 dominant 7th chords, we can think just, okay, we can make a tritone substitution out of every of these 6 chords. Yeah, so and then we have all possible 12, all the 12 possible dominant 7th chords. So any dominant 7th chord in any key we can explain now in a of course in a kind of a rough way. Maybe there's also different explanations, and we of course we have to look very closely to if we really want to analyze everything. But basically, we can say if we are in B minor, for example, we can say we can have any of these 12 possible dominant 7th chords, and we explain it either primary dominant and its tritone substitution. These are 2 chords, 2 dominant 7th chords. Or secondary dominants, where we have like 5, and it's tritone substitutions. Yeah, and when you look at that, and that's also on the page here on the PDF, you see that. You see this also analyzed in E major and C sharp minor, and you see the tritone substitution dominants. And then it's becoming, I think it's becoming very very clear. So that's actually something to know, that we can actually analyze very easily every dominant 7th chord in a key with either being primary dominant, it's tritone substitution, or secondary dominant, and the tritone substitutions of these chords. Okay, but of course the idea of this chain of dominance or secondary dominance, this idea is actually to in a way to hide the tonality, or to go a bit out of the tonality, to just take a different path. And it's very well suited for modulations, because you can just go on and then with any one dominant 7th chord, you can just say, okay, that's now my primary dominant of the next key, and then you are in a different key, and you have to confirm it, of course, but that's it. So it's a kind of way to blur the whole tonality, the key, or to really have like passages where the key is definitely not clear anymore. Yeah, and then you can go somewhere else, or you can come back to the key. Okay, what we take here is like a very small excerpt of our Bach, Johann Sebastian Bach, Courant, the violin solo partita number 1 in B minor. There you find this Courant, and there you find in the second part measure 31, and the next measures, there is like a chain of dominance happening. And in the previous lesson, we talked about this piece. I mean, I just gave you the piece, and also there's this in that lesson there is this PDF where you have the whole notation of that piece analyzed with chord symbols. So it's easy to then analyze it also for functions. So it's ready for analyzing that. Anyway, this part is actually it goes from B minor, which is our tonic. Yeah, just get settled in this. Okay, now this excerpt. Okay, one more time. I just give you the chords actually. So we come somehow we come from B minor, and now we go to C sharp dominant sevenths, to F sharp dominant sevenths. So we progress our dominant 1/5 down, or 1 perfect fourth up, to F sharp dominant seventh. Yeah, that's F sharp dominant seventh. And you also have the notation in the PDF of that thing, so you can follow that maybe better or more easily. So you have F sharp dominant sevenths, going to B dominant sevenths. Yeah, so to E dominant sevenths, to A dominant sevenths, to D dominant sevenths, and then it breaks. That means the chain of dominants breaks. It goes on in this root progression, but the the next chord is not a dominant chord, it's a major seventh chord. Yeah, we show the F sharp here of the G. Yeah, and then it goes on to, or we're not really sure whether it's C sharp minor, 7 flat 5, or C major chord there, because it's just these notes. But anyway, that's not our topic today here. Okay, so we have C sharp dominant sevenths, F sharp dominant seventh, or F sharp dominant sevenths, B dominant sevenths, E dominant sevenths, A dominant sevenths, D dominant sevenths, and then a kind of a G major chord. So we have, like, basically we have these chords. And when we look at that, and we are analyzing this in B minor, then it's a good idea actually to find out what kind of dominants are happening there. Because, I mean, very frequently, for example, when you are in jazz, there are also these chains of dominant seventh chords. And mostly in jazz, we tend to just do not take them so seriously, in a way that we are really thinking, oh, that's a secondary dominant for that chord, and then it goes to that secondary dominant chord for that chord. It's more like we just play like Mixolydian or Mixolydian sharp 11, or like any like symmetric scale, half tone, whole tone, or this kind of stuff, and we just take this as really as a sequence. It's just always a new color, so to speak. But in this case here, with this progression, actually all these chords are in the key. They are not. There are no like triton substitutions. We start from C sharp dominant seventh, which is just the secondary dominant for our regular primary dominant chord, the F sharp seventh. And this F sharp seventh also comes and goes to the secondary dominant of the subdominant. So it goes to the tonic pitch, but has a dominant chord there, dominant seventh chord. Then this is not progressing to the subdominant, to E minor, but to the secondary dominant of the relative of the minor dominant, the A major chord. Yeah, we have F sharp minor, the F sharp minor dominant, which is diatonic in Aeolian in the key of B minor, and then we have this relative major chord, which is A major. So E dominant seventh is just a secondary dominant for that, but we don't go to A major like we go to an A dominant seventh chord. By the way, this is also diatonic in B Aeolian, B natural minor, but in our case it's really like a dominant going further, wants to go further to the relative major chord of the tonic minor, so wants to go to D major. Yeah, so B minor is our tonic and D major is the relative major, and it's also diatonic to the key, of course, and A dominant seventh wants to go there, but is not going really there. It's going to the next dominant instead. Yeah, and then we go to G kind of major seventh. So the dominant, the chain of dominant seventh chords breaks. So all of these chords are really either the primary dominant or direct secondary dominants in the key. And that's also the reason why this works very nice in the composition here. It's like we are not going too far. Yeah, like every next dominant seventh chord is not completely out of the key, of the tonality. It's just actually like adding dissonance to want to go back in the key. Of course, when you have more and more dominant seventh chords, a chain of dominant seventh chords, more and more you lose your feeling of tonality. But the trick here is that you have actually one extra note in two of these chords, and that's the ninths. And these ninths are really making something very clear. I show you what I mean. We start with C sharp dominant seventh, going to F sharp dominant seventh. And now we go to B dominant seventh, but we are not only showing B dominant seventh, the seventh chord, four-part structure, we also have the C there. And C is a flat 9. And remember, before we didn't show this C, we showed the C sharp. Suddenly the C comes in, and this, if you have a flat 9 on a dominant seventh chord, it really suggests, hey, I want to resolve to a minor chord. Yeah, if you have that, it's it really wants to go there. So actually this gives us a kind of an information here that we are dealing with a dominant chord which actually wants to go to minor. And the same comes later when we go to the A dominant 7th chord. Then we show the major 9s, which suggests we want to go to a major chord. To D major in this case. So, in a way, on one hand, we are just having a chain of dominant 7th chords, which can be like in any key, so to speak, but we are dealing with only primary and the secondary dominants, and we have just these extra notes, which really, in a way, keeps us more settled in the tonality, in the key of B minor. Yeah, so that's actually something like the what's important. The important message of that lesson is really there are these chains of dominant 7th chords, but you can check them in two different ways or on two different plateaus. You have like the kind of the surface plateau is just these always these dominant 7th chords move in this chain of 5th or 4th. Yeah, that's one thing. But when you look deeper and you analyze the whole tonality, so the context also in which this chain of dominance is happening, then you can also take a look at every single dominant 7th chord and think, oh, okay, what is this now? Yeah, is this a secondary dominant or is this a tritone substitution? Maybe also some other chords can come into play, like this augmented 6th chord, or these kind of different functions. Whatever. I mean, I just mean just look at it very very close and find out more about this dominant chord by relating it to the tonality. So each dominant chord you should like actually relate really to the tonality, to the key you're in, and think about its function in the key. And this also gives you a kind of a scale choice ideas. You know, if you have this, for example, this chord, and you know, okay, B dominant 7th wants to go to a minor chord, to the subdominant minor 4th. Yeah, then you know, okay, I should use a kind of a minor scale, maybe harmonic minor 5th mode or this kind of thing. And you would never use it here on A dominant 7th. And this is also because you have this major 9th there, but this is also true if you would not show this minor 9th here on the B dominant 7th chord. You still can think, oh, that's actually my secondary dominant for the subdominant. So I take that scale. Instead of just taking, like, for example, like every dominant chord like Mixolydian. So it's all Mixolydian, Mixolydian, Mixolydian. That's and you, of course, you should like play that also for yourself to really hear the differences, to really hear the difference. Okay, now I'm progressing from secondary dominant to the next secondary dominant, or the other thing is just the other idea, the more surface approach. It's just a dominant 7th sound, and then it's the same dominant 7th sound, but a perfect 5th or perfect 4th away. So, okay. Also, you have like 3 different patterns here, which you can just practice. These are just meant for it's actually 3 different approaches to just playing secondary dominants. I mean chains, chains of dominants. So dominants which progress in this cycle 4, perfect fourths always. And we can start, for example, from let's start from C. The first is like a 2-part thing. So we have we think about having a C dominant 7th chord, but we just start with these 2 notes. And this is like the root, the C, and this is a major 3rd. And what we are doing, we go from the root to the minor 7ths. And then, so we have a quarter note, and here we have 2 8th notes. And then we resolve that directly to F dominant 7th, or F and A, so root and 3rd of F dominant 7. And then we go from F to the next minor 7th, tritone again, and resolve it to B flat major, and then the dominant 7th. And so on. So we actually, in a way, we change between like close position and drop 2 excerpt actually of major chords. So we have this kind of an inversion here, the minor 6th of C major. So it comes actually from a drop 2 voicing. And we have the close version for F, which also comes from a close position form. And this we always alternate between these 2. So we always have the root and 3rd, then the root goes to the minor 7th, and then this resolves to the next. And so on. Okay, then we have another like a melodic thing here. It's like and so on. This is like always, we always start with a 3rd of the chord. For example, we are in like C dominant 7th, for example. We start with a 3rd. And then we play root, 7th, root. And this thing is resolving to the next 3rd. Yeah? And when we do that, then we have a kind of an when we do that, that's the descending version. And when we again start with our 3rd here of C dominant 7th, and instead of going low to the C, to the root, but going high, we just go up to the next root, and then we play the same pattern again. Then we have an ascending version of the same thing. And so on. So we can always alternate between these versions, or just when we are too low, then we can just take some ascending versions. So it's always like and so on. So it's just a nice exercise. It's a nice melodic shape, and it's very like a bit cliche kind of a thing, but it's nice, and it keeps you always like thinking, okay, which chord, and you don't go to the root of each next chord, but always to the third. And we had another lesson actually where we had some more of these melodic patterns which we used for the Quintfall-Sequence, so for like the diatonic version of this chain, like we go through all the diatonic chords in a progression of diatonic fourths up or diatonic fifths down. And we had these different patterns, which you actually also can just apply for the chain of dominant seventh chord. So I will just put the link down in the description below for this lesson, so that you also can look there that you have some more practice patterns. And the interesting thing is that it's really mostly what you're doing when you have these chains of dominance, secondary dominance or whatever, you always go from the minor sevenths of the dominant seventh chord to the major third of the next chord. So it's just always. This is also something you see when you analyze this Bach thing. It's like third, 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 third. Yeah, so it's always going to the third, and so actually it's like a very very good way also to make this chord like very clear with just a few notes. Yeah, that's in a way it's kind of the art. To progress like very quickly through a progression and just show just a few notes, and you hear these different chords happening, different colors coming. Okay, there's another like three note structure pattern with actually like alternating between a dominant seventh chord without the fifths. So for example, you have let's take G dominant seventh. Yeah, it's all written out there. So actually, there's this from a different. Anyway, so it's just about the pattern actually. So you have this G dominant seventh chord, the complete four-part structure. Only the fifth is missing, and then you go to that chord. So you go from G dominant seventh to C dominant seventh, and in this case the root is missing. Yeah, that's a thing what happens very often in German. We say like verkürzte Dominante, so it's a dominant seventh chord without the root, and it functions as a dominant. And these are actually, that's a capsule we use, and then we go on to the next dominant seventh chord, which is just a whole step lower from that. So it's an F dominant seventh. Then we go to B dominant seventh, to E flat dominant seventh, to A flat dominant seventh, to D flat dominant seventh, to G flat dominant seventh. Yeah, so that's. So that's the idea of that pattern. It's also only going downwards, descending. All right, so I think that's it for this lesson. So you get some ideas how you can sing, what you can practice, and what you can do with these secondary dominants, and that they exist. All right, so that's it for the lesson. Please, if you like these lessons, don't forget to subscribe to my channel, and also you can click the bell button. There you get notifications when a new lesson, a new video will be released, and that's the case every week. Also, there's a possibility possibility to support my channel by doing a donation. Just follow the link down in the description below there on my website, hupildenbrand.com, the Guitar Academia site there. There you find a button where you can donate. And also like downloading the PDF, of course, it's like it's a great thing to do to really support my work here and get involved in the whole process of this Guitar Academia channel. All right, thank you. Thanks for watching. My name is Hupildenbrand.